And I created very good relationships with the airport manager, with the MD, Kenya Airports Authority, with all the MDs of the institutions that were there.
Right.
I'd actually go and visit them, even to look for extra business.
Well, a very, very warm welcome to the Goldmine Show. We are absolutely excited to bring it to you. As always, my friends, absolutely excited to share these amazing nuggets and in the faith and conviction that there is greatness inside of every single one of us, and we've got to keep nurturing it. We've got to keep working at it. We can never quit on the greatness that is inside of every one of us. And I want to ask you to follow us on the Goldmine Show on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as subscribe right here on YouTube, and let's keep building a great community that believes in the greatness on the inside of us. Today, my friends, we've got an amazing guest, an amazing friend of mine, one individual that I have looked up to as a great mentor, a role model, an emblem and personification of resolution, focus, and everything that connotes, man. She is a new ambassador from Kenya to the great nation of Austria. Our friend Goldmine is starting to host ambassadors, man. That's what's up, man. My good friend, none other than the honorable ambassador. Man, I've got to learn how to say this correctly. Mary Mugwanja. Karibu sana Balozi.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yep.
I'm actually very excited to be part of this show.
Right.
And I want to start by thanking you for hosting the show.
Thank you.
And especially because it's important for us to share experiences with the people, because it's important to make a difference in people's lives.
Right.
And I think you never stop amazing me. I had not known this side of you. And I'm glad that we can reconnect again.
Correct.
We can be able to work together.
Right.
And I look forward to the new appointment.
Yes.
But even as I look forward to the new appointment, I want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency the President for having confidence and faith in me, and actually for sending me to such a rich country. Because Austria is one of the richest countries that we have in the world. It is a small but very rich country, and I'm thinking that I have a big challenge because, like we've spoken off the cuff, we need to make a significant difference. We need to ensure that we reduce the trade imbalance so that we can also empower our economy and empower our people. So to His Excellency the President, thank you so much. And I assure you that I will not let you down. My second appreciation will be to His Excellency, our Governor, Nyandarua County, Governor Francis Kimemia, for also recommending me for this position. Dennis, I would say that I have a very interesting journey in the county. It has been, let me just repeat, it has been quite interesting, considering that I came from a private sector into the public sector, which is totally different from the public sector, is totally different from the private sector. But I thank His Excellency the Governor, because he was able to get hold of me. He actually has mentored me, and I would say I've become who I am because of him. So Our Excellency the Governor, thank you so much for the great work that you're doing for the people of Nyandarua, for the great work that you've done in me, that I can actually be considered for this position of the ambassador. I do not take that for granted. And also, I think I should have even started by thanking God. Because He has uplifted me to levels that, Dennis, when I look back, actually ask myself, is it really real me? You remember that there was one of the journalists who indicated that I came from a village girl. He actually called me a village girl. And for sure, it takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of determination, it takes a lot of hard work for us to come from the village girl to levels that you're able to even represent your country. So I appreciate our our Almighty for what it is that He's done for my life. And I continue to praise Him. And all this for me and everybody I talk to, I say, may the honor and glory be His.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Man, I mean, you've just said very many things right in there. And we've got to unpack this because then clearly it's from a village girl to an ambassador. But in between has been many things.
Yes.
And currently serving also as a minister for transports, energy, and public works in the great county of Nyandarua.
Yes.
And this is no mean achievement. But you said something about Austria, and maybe I want us to start there. You talked about a small country and a rich country. And this is you then making the handshake between the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya and the people of Austria.
Yes.
Just in a nutshell, what do you envision as part of what then you seek to deliver for us, even as the ambassador of Kenya to Austria?
Dennis, I think there's so much that we can do between Kenya and Austria. I know that the trade imbalance is quite huge, and there's a lot that needs to be done. I know we export fresh cut flowers to Austria.
Right.
We also export tropical fruits. We do legumes, but at very minimal levels.
Right.
And I think even in 2020, we didn't do a lot of export.
Right.
And Austria has a GDP of about $83,000. And it has that is actually the GDP per capita of $83,000 compared to Kenya of $1,700. So you can imagine the gap in terms of the purchasing power and what it is that we need to do. Austria normally imports from us. We import from Austria. We do specialized equipment. We do a lot of chemicals. We do a lot of antibiotics, and they're very good in terms of specialized plant and equipment.
Correct.
So when you look at it, there is a lot of trading potential that we can actually exploit.
Absolutely.
How would we do that? I'm aware that Austria doesn't fund or doesn't give grants to Kenya through government-to-government relations. They actually do that through the international bodies. I think my first assignment is to ensure that we build confidence with the Austrian government that they can actually be able to trade government-to-government.
Directly.
And that will actually go a long way to ensuring that we're able to increase on the trade.
Right.
I think also even as we try and create the environment and create the confidence in the Austrian government, I would also want to know the international organizations that are directly involved with looking for potential here so that I can deepen the relationship.
Right.
I think I have not been able to know how many there are, but there's a lot that we can be able to do if I get to know who they are. And I think also getting to know what are the specific areas I would want to target. I'd mentioned that Kenya mainstay is agriculture, and I think I look at Africa's potential in terms of agriculture, and we have about 70–80% of Africa's land as arable land that can be used for farming.
Right.
And we don't seem to really have an affirmative action in terms of agriculture, value addition, and even manufacturing. So if we're able to really work on that and ensure that even as a country, we're able to invest more in agriculture. I know on the Big Four agenda, we have manufacturing and food security, but I still feel there's much more we need to do, and especially when it comes to the budget allocation, so that we can deepen that. And I'd also specifically talk about Nyandarua, because that's where I've been. I think 80% of our economic activity is agriculture, and we are doing very well in potatoes, we are doing very well in milk, we're doing very well in vegetables and fruits. Can we get market for these fruits? What is it that we need to do as a country, as a county, to ensure that we produce for the international market? And I think once we get those relationships, it means then we'll be able to increase the trading relations between us and Austria. I think something else that I can mention is that I know there are a number of international international organizations that are hosted in Austria. And surprisingly, I'll be a representative, a Kenyan representative to all these international bodies, including the UN. And I think them, we're able to deal with them directly. I would want to know the agenda they have for our country. And most importantly, deepen that agenda so that my time in Austria can be value adding to the residents of Nyandarua, can be value adding to the residents of Austria. Because I think that's why leaders are appointed, so that you're able to make a difference. And if you can't make a difference, sorry to say this, but let's not waste the public funds. Let's not waste the public resources.
Absolutely.
Let's ensure that we
There's
get
a return
value
on it.
Yes, and even as I say this, I know that there have been ambassadors there before. They've done a good job, but I still feel there's room for improvement, and I would want to champion that to see that that trade imbalance is actually would want to be at equilibrium. And if we get to equilibrium, you can imagine what it will mean for the country, what it will mean for the resident. I think it will be quite impressive. And I trust God will give me the ability, will give me the right connections, that any door I knock, I'll be able to be received. And all I need is His favor, and the rest I will take up.
You know, I am reminded we are the first interview that you're doing after your approval.
Yes.
And on behalf of the wide Goldmine show community, we congratulate you.
Thank you.
And we wish you well. We feel very honored that we'll be the first ones to just have this conversation. And I love the energy with which, man, you speak this with, man. We are on to good things, no doubt about this. No doubt about it. And just coming back to this journalist, and we'll be coming back to the Austrian question. You've just talked about God a couple of times already, and the journalist talked about the village and the girl. So, and I just asked myself, the village girl, when you look at the village girl that was described, I wonder whether you envisioned her talking the way you're talking and looking at the world in the way you are.
Thank you, Dennis. I think my journey has been very interesting, and for sure, I'm that village girl whose God has actually favored, and He has actually managed to put me from one level to the other.
Let's talk about it.
And that, for me, I don't take it for granted. And when I look at even this position, I would only attribute it to God's goodness and His mercies, because there are quite a number of Nyandarua residents who have qualified, but He found it appropriate for me to be the right person. But I think also my personal resolve has been to focus on success. I think for me, if everybody focused on success and you do that which is right, and I keep telling the young people that there's nothing as important as having a personal brand. People getting to know who you are and what it is that you want, and focusing on that brand. The other thing that is critical even for all of us is to know what is it that God wanted for us. What is His purpose? How do we achieve the purpose? And also being a firm believer. And I keep telling people it's not about talking about salvation. It's about knowing who you are as a person, how you relate with Him, and what it is that you do. Whatever you do, does it portray that salvation? Does it reflect whatever it is that you're talking about? Even if it doesn't, please don't talk about salvation. Let your actions actually even talk about salvation. I never go telling people that I'm saved, but I think whatever I do is a demonstration that I believe in God, and I always attribute my success to Him. And I would say that my journey started as a secretary. And
that's very powerful what you just talked about there. Walking the talk is a big deal. Sometimes talk is cheap. Walking the talk. I mean, that's profound right there. And if all of us can take the challenge to walk the talk of what if we actually just walked half the talk we do, most likely the world will be a much better place. Of course, it will be much greater if we walk the full length of what we talk.
It's important, and not many people are able to do that, but it's possible. It's just the determination and the will to walk the talk that all of us need to have. I think I wanted to share
your journey.
My journey. I started off with as a secretary. And I was in Nairobi, and I was taken to Kisii. That was in Barclays Bank, to be precise, on 2nd of July, 1990. I was posted to Kisii branch as actually it wasn't even a secretary, as a typist.
All the way in Kisii?
All the way in Kisii.
So your first job was in Barclays?
Yes, my first job was in Barclays, Kisii.
Right.
I went
Were
there.
you born in Nairobi?
No, I was born in Nyandarua.
You were born in Nyandarua?
Nyandarua, but
okay.
I went to college in Kiambu Institute.
Right.
And I was among the first people who actually, because of the performance in Kiambu Institute, I was actually given a job at Stella and Consult, but it was just like an attachment.
Right.
And then after that, I worked my way. I was able to actually join Barclays Bank.
Right.
And I would say it was totally out of my efforts.
Right.
I got my dad to introduce me to somebody who used to work there, and I used to persistently tell him I want a job there. Right. So I nagged him until he managed to get me a job. Right. So I went to Barclays Kisii between July 90 and January 1992
as a typist.
As a typist.
Typist is a lady who is given the letter by the boss.
Yes.
And those days it was
and you man the reception. And you man the reception. And I would remember one encounter when I was very new in Kisii, and unfortunately the late Honorable Onyonka came in, and I didn't know him, and he was very rough on me. But I stood firm and I told him, my responsibility is to ensure that I know you, who you are, before I can even tell the manager. And we had an exchange. Right. But I'll tell you, eventually we became very good friends. Right. Being firm on what it is that you're doing, and also getting to know what is expected of you. You'll get very many challenges along the way, but as long as it's never personal, it's in the course of doing your work.
It's all in a day's job.
Yes, you actually are able to excel. I did a fantastic job. And then I was moved to Barclays JKA. There, at least I went as a secretary. I moved from a typist to a secretary.
You had an upgrade. It was a promotion.
It was a promotion.
So your first promotion?
My first promotion
was from a typist to
a secretary. And there used to be secretaries grade A, B, and C. So I actually became a secretary grade C.
So is C the starting point?
The A was now the MD secretary.
Okay. So you started at C?
I started at the typist. Right. Then I became graded from C all the way to B because I didn't become A. Right. When I was to become A, I actually changed my career into banking. So I went to Barclays JKA. Right. And I'll tell you, I did an excellent job. Right. Why would I say that I did an excellent job? Because I was a secretary, but I was the best person in terms of sales referrals. Wow. I remember around that time is when we introduced the credit cards. Right. And because we had very many pilots who are clients, I sold the highest number of credit cards in the country. Right. And I was actually recognized.
It was a Barclay card then?
It was the Barclay card then, I was even given a chairman's award. Whoa. Actually, we used to have facilities that we are calling the executive loans for the high end, and I referred the highest level of executive loans. Right. And I was not a salesperson, but I was a secretary. But because of my interactions with the clients, I knew all my clients. I knew their incomes. I knew what it is that we used to share with them a lot. So actually, I did very well both in secretarial.
So this is you being duty plus.
Precisely, and getting to know what is the direction. Right. But that time, the direction was to do the secured facilities, to do the executive cards, and I followed that direction. Right. And it was my wish that I would move from secretarial all the way to banking sector. Right. So I did that. I did 10 years. Right. And I'll tell you, Dennis, I tried to convert to banking, and it was very difficult. Right. It took one person to come in. And he used to call, he was the person in charge of audit. Right. He was called Jeremy Best. Right. So because of the relationship I used to have at the airport, I used to ensure that he comes in, I check him through, and he was very happy. He's the one who actually recommended that I should be promoted.
Out of the relationship?
Out of the relationship.
You served him.
Yes, yes. And I'll tell you, when I was at the airport, I even used to ensure that all the chairmen, everybody coming in got an executive reception, and they were very happy. As in, everybody got to know that they had somebody. Mind you, I was just a secretary.
So
at a secretary level.
You're just a secretary?
Yes.
But you didn't view yourself just as a secretary?
No, I didn't.
And the perspective you had of yourself was richer than just a secretary?
Yes.
You sought for opportunities where you could add value, and so on and so forth?
Yes, yes. And I created very good relationships with the airport manager, with the MD, Kenya Airports Authority, with all the MDs of the institutions that were there. Right. I'd actually go and visit them, even to look for extra business. And remember, I was not a salesperson at that particular time. Right. Fortunately, with this relationship, I managed to get promoted to be a personal banker.
After 10 years of being a secretary?
After 10 years of being a secretary, I became a personal banker, and personal banking was the in thing then, because that we were doing sales, and every year I would emerge the best.
Right.
And because I had the passion, I had the determination, and personally I wanted to succeed in life.
Right.
And I'm a believer that for you to succeed, you need to put in a lot of efforts, you need to be diligent, you need to be to have very strong moral value system.
Right.
And the value systems are critical. So I did very well.
Right.
And within 2 years, I was promoted to a prestige manager.
Whoa. From the personal banker. From
the personal banker. And all through, even when I was a secretary, it means I did personal banking. So even when I became a personal banker, I only did 2 years, excelled, and that second year I was actually promoted.
So the 2 years was just to formalize what you had already been doing anyway.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And
I hope all the personal bankers, you're listening to this conversation.
Yes, it's important because once you put your efforts, once you put your all into whatever it is that you're doing, once you want to prove that you can deliver, it becomes in very handy. Don't want to be held by anyone if you're not a performer. Because as they say, you'll be promoted to incompetence, which is not good. So I was actually promoted to be a prestige manager in June 2001.
Right.
That time I went to start the current Prestige Center. What used to happen in Prestige is that we used to recruit, and we have a target of 1,000 for the Prestige Center. We used to do revenue collection. That time it was very manual. So I started, I formulated a system to actually do revenue collection for the Prestige customers. And that was actually copied by all the Prestige Centers. And I'll tell you, in 2 years, I was the best performing Prestige Center.
Wow. This is you at the top again.
And I had actually done more than 1,500. Yet my target was 1,000 customers.
So you're way past your targets.
Yes. So when I did current for 2 years, and I did current between 2001 to 2002, no, 2003, that must have been April. Prestige Plaza, Barclays Prestige Plaza, had a lot of challenges. So I was taken there to go and sort out the issues. It was not performing. And the then director, Kario Kingari, thought I was the best person. It had a lot of other issues that needed to be sorted out. And I was taken there. And believe you me, we sorted out the issues.
Turnaround management.
We became the best performing center. And Prestige was totally different from retail banking. So for you to move from Prestige to retail, you needed to be at a very high level. So I did another 2 years in Barclays Prestige. And I told my director, I've done my bit. I need more responsibilities. And I'll tell you, every 2 years, I'd actually demand to be given higher responsibilities. I was taken to Ruaraka branch, retail branch. And there I did 2 years, 2005, that was around November, up to 2008. And I was promoted, all through I was getting promotions. But when I left Ruaraka retail branch, we had a big problem in Westlands retail. Actually, we had very many frauds then. And I remember even when the retail director then sent me there, I was asking him, why are you setting up for failure? Why is it only me who is sent
from a trouble spot to another
trouble spot? And he told me, you're the only person who can deliver this for us.
You have demonstrated.
And believe you me, in less than 1 year, I was able to transform the branch. And why was I able to transform the branch? Because I was able to create very good relationship, understand the team. You know, you talk about knowing your staff, getting to know your staff, getting to know who are the bad elements, ensuring that they're out of the way, and motivating the team. So we worked as a team. And it was a very interesting short stint, because I think I only did 1 year. And that when I went now to Barclays Westlands, I was actually a senior manager. I did 1 year, and I felt I had done enough of retail banking. So
but the job had been done even in Westlands. We had fixed what needed to be fixed. What
needed to be fixed. But maybe something we'll talk about Westlands. We had a very bad incident. We had an armed robbery that happened just when I'd come in. I'd not even settled. I think it was like 2-3 months. Just when I'd settled. And I'll tell you, that is why I talk about God. Because From Ruaraka, I came in. I had a pastor that I was supporting even to build the church. So this particular day, there was a robbery. He came, and that day, I was sitting behind to just review the operations.
Right.
Because as a manager, you need to be all-rounded and get to even have a firm grip of what it is that you're doing. So I used to have days where I'll sit back to review the works done to ensure they're done properly. So even when he came in, for me, it was like an interruption.
Right.
And he actually waited for me for 2 hours.
Right.
But after 2 hours, I went to talk to him.
Yep.
We went and prayed. And you know, there are these evangelical pastors.
Yep.
So I remember that I allowed him to just play and pray.
Yep.
And it was very loud. And
in the office.
And I was in it.
And that was in the office?
And that was in the office.
Right.
He left, and I'll tell you, after 5 minutes, we were attacked.
Whoa.
So he was sent to come and cover us so that no one was going to be hurt. It's unfortunate that we were actually doing the renovations for the branch. We lost the contractor, but none of us was hurt.
None of the staff was hurt?
None of the staff
All
was
of
hurt.
them intact?
Intact. And what happened is that the armed thugs came in. They got the custodians.
Right.
They went into the strong room, emptied all the money.
Right.
And since there's somebody who realized there was a commotion, the armed guards who were guarding us never left.
Right.
So they were outside.
Right.
So there was a lot of gun exchange.
Right.
They actually put the money in sacks.
Yep.
But the good thing about Barclays Westlands, there's a revolving door.
Right.
So even as they got out, they were not able to, because it was a big sack. You can imagine a whole, the Manila sack
of the entire vault has been emptied in there.
Precisely. But when they got out of the door, there was an exchange.
Right.
And for me, when the exchange died, I actually took the courage and walked out. Guess what? When I walked out, I got the sack out there.
They had left it there?
They had left it there. I quickly dragged it with the help of the guards, and we went back with the money.
Not even a coin went?
33 million shillings.
Whoa.
You can imagine? The fact that I was able to get that courage, the fact that I was able to recover that money was something even for...
you know, especially when there is exchange of fire, nobody is clear what to do. I mean, you all feel very...
But remember, God had already prepared me.
Your pastor had prayed?
He had prayed.
Right.
The courage, the instinct.
Right.
Go and check what is happening out there. And I got the money out there, and we recovered those funds.
And the pastor waited for 2 hours?
Yes.
So he insisted we must pray?
We must pray.
And you prayed charismatically?
Yes, yes, and it was good. Wow. And that is one of the incidences that I recall, and I say, surely God has been faithful.
Absolutely.
And then just still in the same branch, we had then the chairman. You know, it used to be Barclays PLC, then there was Barclays Kenya. So Barclays Kenya used to be under Barclays PLC. So it happened that the chairman was coming. And me, I was not one of the big branches. Yes, Westlands was one of the big branches, but we had the Queensways, we had the Harambee Avenues. So I knew the chairman was not coming to my branch.
Yep.
But I prepared as though he was coming to my branch.
Right.
And shock on me. Once again, the director called me at about 6 in the morning and told me, I'm bringing the chairman to your branch.
Whoa.
And Dennis, I'll tell you, God is faithful.
Right.
I hosted the chairman.
Right.
He came in. He actually took 3 hours with me. Just me and him.
Just the two of you?
The MD was not there.
Right.
The retail director was there.
Right.
I actually brought the bank to a standstill.
Right.
We discussed about performance.
Right.
He took me through what it needs to be done. And I'll tell you, what gave him the comfort? Just a cup of coffee.
You offered him a cup of coffee?
I offered him a cup of coffee.
Right.
I offered him a second one, and he was not in a rush.
He was easy?
He was easy. Yep. We closed the branch. He talked to the staff.
Right.
And shock on me, I invited him for lunch. Wow. He said yes.
Wow.
So, you know Jacaranda?
Yes, in Westlands, yes.
I didn't even know where to take him.
Right.
Because it's African for you to invite people, and he was a Mzungu. So I thought, let me just invite him, knowing very well that he's not going to come for lunch.
But at least you offered.
I offered.
Yep.
Shock on me.
He accepted.
He accepted. So I stayed with him from 11 to 3 o'clock. Wow. And then I remember my director calling me and asking me, what are you doing with this man? take a bathroom break. So I went, explained to him.
Yep.
So they actually sought for authority from me, the MD and the retail director, that they could come and join us. Wow. And of course, I was a princess. Let me call it that way.
You're calling the shots on that table.
And he was very, very, very excited. Wow. He gave very good feedback.
Right.
And like I say, it is not.
Those are rare privileges.
It can only be somebody working within me.
Yes.
And he was very excited.
Absolutely.
I think I still have the papers that he personally wrote for me.
Right.
What is it that you're supposed to do?
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I think that has also helped me.
Right.
So that's an interesting journey.
Wow.
Then from being the retail branch manager, I now became an area manager in charge of a number of branches. Then we used to have a product called Local Business.
Right.
And also we had the business club. I also came up with a system, and I used to collect all the fees for the business.
Right.
And I did 1 year, and I felt I needed a change.
Right.
I needed a change. It didn't matter.
It was time for the next.
I had done 19 years in Barclays, and
Right.
I felt I was not growing enough.
Right.
I needed a different challenge.
Right.
And then the other thing is that when I was in Barclays, everywhere we used to go, we used to talk about equity.
Right.
And when we talk about equity, everybody will say equity is not a threat.
Yep.
And I said, I want to join this bank.
Right.
This bank that everybody is talking about.
It's on everybody's lips.
Yes,
Yes.
I want to join and see what is the magic they
Right.
did. Fortunately, I got a job.
Yep.
And I was actually posted to Equity Westlands.
Right.
When I went to Equity Westlands, it also had a lot of issues. I think banks in Westlands have a lot of issues. We never got to understand what it was. But I'll tell you, I got, I did 3 years. I think I joined there 2009. And as that was in August 2009. And I started the Westlands Supreme Center in 2012.
Right.
So I did it. I went in as a senior business growth and development manager.
Right.
And I'll tell you, Dennis, it was a very interesting journey.
Right.
Now I've joined the bank.
Right.
Then the bank.
Right.
And you make a difference to the clients from the bottom of the pyramid to the corporates.
Right.
And I was able to grow my people.
Right.
I would actually say that I was able to identify the now director in charge of treasury,
Right.
Bonagashau. I actually got him in as an insurance person.
Daniel Gashau.
Yeah, Daniel Gashau came in as an insurance agent.
Right.
And I was able to identify that he had a lot of talent.
Right.
So I actually referred him to treasury.
Right.
And he even grew. By the time I was leaving, he was more senior than I am.
But
when I look back, I say it is good to mentor the youth.
Right.
It's actually good to be able to identify the talent in people and nurture the talent. Because I'll tell you, Dennis, other than the business aspect, what I did in equity and the significant difference that I made and moving the branch from non-profit making to a significant profit and also the balance sheet growing 2-3-fold. I think I also made a big difference in the lives of the people who came in.
Right.
I ensured that I understood the team when you report in as a new person, get to know your capabilities and get to challenge you, get to know what are your career aspirations and walk the journey with you. We used to have a career development plan, a 2-year career development plan that was mandatory for all my staff.
Right.
Where they would have plan A, I would want to go this way, I want to go this direction, then we would work together.
For every staff in the branch?
For every staff in the branch.
So you almost became a mentor and a coach to all your staff?
And it paid off. It paid off because the performance was exceptional.
Right.
And I created a name for myself.
Right.
I tend to imagine that by the time I was leaving Equity, everybody knew me, from the MD to from the chair to the cleaners.
Right.
Everybody could talk about me,
Right.
and they could see that I have that potential to actually grow, to look at them as my children, because everywhere I work, whether you are younger or older than me, I look at you as my child. I want you to grow. And when you grow, I also grow. And you can imagine the prayers that those people talk about.
But it must have also taken a very genuine, deliberate interest in your people.
Yes.
For you to invest to the level of saying, this is your plan A, this is your plan B, and as their leader, you do understand what their different options are and how to support them.